a YouTube one a crack as well, which is taking its time, so it looks like it's all up and running. So shout out, say hello, make sure you can hear and see me alright. Got a bit to get through today on cycling and talking about cycling and using that as a fitness tool for your riding and for your racing, and how we actually need to be able to get rid of it. So shout out once you're on, make sure you can hear and see me alright. See how these two are working together. We'll see what happens. Anyway, so with cycling, a lot of riders and racers cycle. But this goes for different types of motorsports as well. It goes for like Formula 1 guys, goes for V8 guys, goes for road racers, goes for motocross guys, enduro guys. There's this whole background of cycling, okay? Getting on the exercise bike, getting on the cycling bike and doing heaps of Ks, even to the stage where some of the road racing guys, even motocross guys, even do competitions or cycling events, okay? It's almost like a second sport or a second hobby. Hey, Mick. And the problem with this is, I suppose, I don't know how it's come about in riding and racing, but majority of what I've seen, from my understanding, is that it's from the coaches that riders and racers are seeking out to help them. So a lot of riders and racers that help, a lot of coaches that help riders and racers around the world don't predominantly work with just riders and racers. They work with different types of athletes. So they might be like a coach that trains predominantly maybe triathletes or Ironman or swimmers or runners or cyclists. They have other sports that they focus on, and then it just happens to be that they've got a couple of riders or racers that they also work with as well. Or the other side is that their background is actually in these endurance sports. So maybe they've got a background with cycling or background with mountain biking or background with long distance running. So that's what they know and that's what they built up with. Now, I'm not sure whether I suppose the main problem comes from the riders and racers themselves, is they're assuming that they're more endurance athletes, so they go and seek out these types of coaches. They go and seek out the long distance cyclists or the long distance mountain bikers because they feel that that's what's going to be best for fitness. Now, the problem is that riders and racers are more strength athletes than they are endurance athletes. Okay, so a rider or racer is more like, say, a weightlifter than they are to a cyclist. And the reason being is that they have a 100-kilo bike. Okay, a rider or racer has a 100-kilo bike that they have to throw around, plus the track conditions, plus all the power and output that comes from the bike as well that they have to be able to deal with. Whereas like a cyclist or a long-distance runner doesn't have these things that they have to be able to work with. So it's a different type of training. Like when you've got a cyclist training, what they're focusing on is doing more Ks on the cycle bike because that's part of their skill. And that helps to build their cardio. So they're working on the skill and the cardio at the same time. And where a lot of riders and racers go wrong is they do a lot of cycling. Hey Matthew, and what this does is helps with their cycling. Hey Nick, and they get better at cycling, which is awesome, okay, which is cool. However, that's not the actual skill. You have to remember when cyclists are doing cycling, that's like their skills training. That's not their fitness training. That's their skills, and it happens to help with the fitness side as well. With riding and racing, the skill is actually riding the bike, and then you need a proper training system to help with that. So when you're using cycling, you're helping to build a skill that you don't really need when you're out on the bike. And they're using different energy systems. So if you look at the build, and this is one of the mistakes I made with my training as well. So I did a lot of cycling, especially a lot of exercise bike work in RPM classes. So go to the gym, you do your RPM class for 45 minutes to an hour. And there was other cyclists in there as well, because a lot of cyclists tend to do those types of classes as well when they're not getting on the cycling bike to help with their riding and race fitness. And the problem comes, like if you look at what a cyclist looks like, or a marathon runner or a triathlete, they're skinny. Like they're fairly skinny and lean people. They're not people that or not athletes that are used to throwing 100 kilos around. They're people that are used to carrying their body weight for very long periods of time. And that's just the difference in sport. But as a rider and racer, you need to know where to get the right help from to be able to have the right strategy in place. Like obviously if you go to a triathlete, they're going to give you ways of training, hey Peter, that they've used, okay, to be a triathlete. And they may not have that complete understanding of the sport. And just because they've worked with other riders and racers, it doesn't always mean that that's the exact way to be able to do it. So it was one of the mistakes for me. So I did RPM classes. I did 4 times a week. Go and cycle, okay, bust your ass in the gym, doing your cycling, doing your exercise bike work, high intensity, low intensity, all of this sort of stuff. And I saw progress on the bike. but very minimal amounts for the amount of work that's going in. And the reason that you see those minimal amounts is because it's actually reducing your level of muscle mass. It causes what we call muscular atrophy, which means it reduces your level of muscle mass and also reduces your level of strength as well. So when you're throwing around a 100 kilo bike and you've got predominantly most of your training actually working on reducing your strength, in terms of the strength side, it makes it a lot harder to move the bike around. Your cardio and conditioning might be fine, but your body's just not going to be strong enough to be able to throw the bike around for those long periods of time. So you probably won't get to the point where you actually get out of breath because you're not going to be able to move the bike fast enough or at a high enough intensity for you to be able to do that. So this comes into then different energy systems. So you have your aerobic energy system, your aerobic energy system and anaerobic energy system. Anaerobic is small, sharp bursts of high intensity activity, whereas your aerobic training is the opposite, works on relatively consistent intensity for a longer period of time. And that comes into things, looking at things such as cycling. That's your aerobic stuff. Okay, marathon running, long distance runs, long distance cycles, long distance swims. You just got a relatively consistent intensity. You're moving around. You've got slight fluctuations, uphills and downhills, but overall it's relatively consistent. And a lot of riders and racers feel that their racing falls into that category. However, when you look deeper into riding and racing, what you'll actually find is that there's fluctuations in intensity. When you go from, like, say, a whole heap of braking bumps, that takes a heap of physical effort. But then you might go to another part of the track where you're like floating through the air over a jump. It takes minimal amounts of effort. And that's where I got pretty confused, because you see all the pros, you see all these guys doing cycling, but no one really knows why it's doing it. Everyone's like, oh, it just builds up cardio. But cyclists don't cycle to build up their cardio. They cycle because cycling is their main skill, the main thing that they're working on. Hey, Daniel. So exactly like with your riding and racing, right? For your riding and racing, you go and ride on the bike because that's the skill, that's the thing you need to get better at. And then you need to find the best training methods to be able to complement that. So by doing cycling, you might get good at cycling, but the transfer to your riding and racing is going to be fairly minimal compared to what it actually should be. So exactly the same mistake I made, exactly what I did. Like, go and do a heap of cycling, you see all the pros are doing it, everyone else is doing it, but never really have an understanding. Just like, oh yeah, it's cardio. But it's actually working the complete opposite energy system. It's working against strength building, where you want to be promoting strength building. And that's where I see a lot of riders and racers go wrong, is that they're putting the work in, they put the time in, they put the effort in, but it's working against everything else. It's working against helping them on the bike, or giving them a benefit, but only a very small benefit from the amount of work that they're putting in, rather than the large, big jumps and leaps in improvement that they should be doing, or should be seeing with each training session. So for you guys that like cycling, like an example that you could use is you want to maybe like some hill sprints. That would be something that would work better. So find a big hill. So here in Perth we have Kings Park. I think it's there's a particular hill there we have at Kings Park, and there's always a lot of cyclists there. Super steep. And the most efficient way you can still cycle, if that's what you enjoy doing, is you can find a hill, okay, that takes maybe about 30 seconds or a minute to get to the top of. You sprint from the bottom to the top, and then you rest a couple of minutes. Come back down to the bottom of the hill, rest a couple of minutes, and then go again. And you can repeat that, say, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, depending on your fitness level. And that's going to help a lot more, because now we're training the anaerobic energy system rather than the aerobic energy system. So you need to be training the right areas to be able to get the most out of your training. Okay, you want to make sure that the time you're putting in, like most of you will have limited training time. Most of you guys who watch my live streams and follow my stuff, it's not something you do full time. Like, you don't have all day, every day to go riding and to go racing and to go training and researching all this stuff. So you need to make sure with that small amount of time or limited amount of time that you do have to put towards your riding and racing, is that it's maximized. And by cycling and doing this long distance cycling stuff, you're not maximizing that. Okay, you're working against yourself, working against what you actually need on the bike. So that's the cardio and the conditioning side. So if any of you guys want help with that and building out a strategy for your conditioning and the strength and the nutrition side as well, next week I'm going to open up 3 spots for a strategy call. So we can organize a call, map out a 90-day plan for you, see exactly what we've got to do and help you implement it. And the reason we do these calls is because I know that there's a very small percentage of you that will want some help to actually implement this stuff and put it into practice, and will want to work with me over the long term. So if that's you, send me a message, send me a PM. This is not for people that don't want to implement, okay, and don't want to do the work. Hey Craig, like if you just want to sit at home and not really do too much training and just do bits here and there, then probably wouldn't worry about the call. because it's not going to help you. But if you're willing to take action and implement and put in the work and be coachable, then send me a PM. We can catch up for a call, see if we have something suitable, build out your plan anyway, and then when we get to the end of the call, spend the last few minutes seeing if we've got anything suitable for you if you want to work together with us. So if that's you, make sure you hurry up and send me a PM so we can hook up a spot. Otherwise, we'll speak to you guys soon. See ya.